Episode 5 of Andor is called The Axe Forgets. This is, of course, the second of 3 episodes taking place on the Aldani, where, of course, in the next episode, Cassian is going to pull off the heist. I already did reviews for the first 4 episodes of Andor. If you missed any of them, they're on my channel. I'll link them in the description as well. I do think it's important to know what I say about those episodes going into this one, but now let's get into episode 5. Now, I usually go through episodes by discussing it scene by scene and giving my thoughts on them. However, I think considering the storylines, it's better to separate the storylines and talk about them as such, so that's what I'm going to do. In episode 4, we barely really saw Syril Karn, who of course is sent back to his mom. That we did see, but there was not really much I could say. But now we see more of him with his mom, and we get more of an idea of the relationship between the two, and essentially that she is really not happy with what he's been doing in general. Like he's been in law enforcement. She's like, no, you should not be like that. It actually makes a lot of sense that there's not a great relationship between the two, and they're trying to mend it now. And she's trying to give him a job, like, hey, I contacted your uncle, so maybe he has something, and eventually he does have something. Of course, we know how that'll play out, but that's getting ahead of myself. But I very much like the conversation that they have. I think it makes a lot of sense considering who Syril is. Like, we've met Syril in these past couple of episodes. We see the type of person that he is, and yeah, it really does make sense when we see this. And honestly, I really enjoyed just seeing the relationship between him and his mom and how the conversations played out. However, despite the fact that his mom is trying to get a job for him and he is agreeing to it, he still is holding on to his past, well, at least the past couple of episodes, I should say, because he still holds the image of Cassian. At the end, he looks at it and it's like, I'm gonna get you. And, well, yeah, he's very intent on doing that. Syril, I'm not sure if it's the best choice for you, but you do you, man, I suppose. We again see more of Mon Mothma's life. This time, we also get introduced to her daughter, who she doesn't seem to get along with too well, and it very much just seems that Mon is not entirely happy with her entire family. It's very much just a facade. Like, it very much just seems like Mon is putting up a facade to the rest of the galaxy to just give the impression that she's happily married, has a daughter, has a family, and it's all good. But it really isn't, of course. Like, she very much still wants to fight against the Empire, and that is why it's very nice to see this side of Mon Mothma, because this is a part that we never really saw from her in the first place in the movies, because, well, let's be fair, the movies couldn't really focus on that. But I really love the fact that we're just getting that in this show, to see what she was up to essentially right before she formed the rebellion. Speaking of people putting up a facade, a front, just to distract the Empire, Lieutenant Gorn is essentially the same. Like, of course, he was an Imperial for years, and, well, Vel explains what happened to him, that he loved a woman and then turned against the Empire. But Gorn very much seems to know how to manipulate people and how to essentially abuse his power to make sure that people just do what he wants them to do, and also to make sure that he, can sneak out of the base every once in a while. It's very smart, honestly, because he is very much trying to tear the Empire down from the inside, and it's very cool to see that he's just, telling people like, okay, you do this, you do that, and he doesn't even care what they really need to do. Of course, he does actually do something nice to the guys who are like, well, we wanted to see the eye. Can we at least see that and then do the painting? And he's like, okay, fine. You can see the eye. So there's definitely a bit of a human side to him, that he still, wants to be friends with people. But, I mean, it's honestly interesting to see, and it very much reminded me of Callus, because Callus was in a similar way that he was an Imperial loyal for years, and then something happened which changed him, and then he was like, okay, I can still use my position in the Empire to do some damage, and they both do that. Callus and Gorn do that, which is a very nice parallel, honestly. It was also nice to see Ferrex a little bit more in this episode. We see that Blevin visits Ferrex. Now, he isn't really in this episode much, but it's essentially the little scene that he has is set up for the next episode, and it's like good setup. It makes sense Then he returns to Coruscant, where he then runs into Dedra, and Dedra is just still trying to figure out what the hell happened, even though she really shouldn't be doing that. And I also really like the fact that she just admits she has no clue what she's doing. Like, yeah, what is she really doing? What is she searching for? Like, she doesn't really know, but she is just hoping to find something at some point. And, well, of course, eventually she does. But she's going to need some help with that, and I'll get into that, of course, in the next couple of episodes. But I do think that's a very interesting storyline. And I think the actress, Denise Gough, I believe, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but that's how it's credited on IMDb. But I think she does a great job as Dedra, and honestly makes for a very compelling character. But of course, the main storyline of the episode is on Aldhani, where the crew is just getting ready for the mission. We see how Cassian is getting ready. He learns quite quick most of the things. Like, he needs to learn how to act as an Imperial, essentially. They do drills, but even in those drills, in the things that they're trying to learn him, he is even learning the group a couple of things. He's like, well, I can see you're left-handed and you're right-handed, that kind of stuff. And it actually does make Val be like, okay, I'm interested. Let us know a little bit more about that, because it might actually be relevant info that you might want to know for the mission. And also when they're like looking over the dam and he's essentially explaining to Val and Terramin, like, hey, this is how the ship works and this is what I'm going to do. And they're just like, oh, I suppose we didn't really think about that. So it really is actually quite hopeful that Cassian is there, and that Cassian is helping them to prepare a little bit better for the mission than they already were, because they truly believed that they were completely ready for this thing, but maybe not so much. But now they, of course, are. Eventually, they set out. Skeen throughout the entire episode, and of course already the previous episode, is extremely suspicious. That finally gets to a head. He finds the Kyber crystal. Cassian admits to being paid, but the group seems okay with that. It's like, yeah, if you're being paid, at least he has some kind of motivation to do what he does. So it does make sense that the group is okay with him, and also considering that he was able to tell them a couple of things that they probably should know. That probably convinced them as well that Cassian is a valuable member, despite the fact that he might not be the truest believer. But then again, not everyone in the group is necessarily a true believer, like Nemec, for example. But Nemec gives Cassian the stamp of approval, and that's good enough for everyone else. And what's interesting, though, is like Cassian with his Kyber crystal, every single time throughout this episode that he loses his stuff and he's like, oh my god, where the hell did it go? Dude, how difficult is it to just keep it in your pocket or around your neck or wherever? I think Cassian should be a little bit smarter with hiding it, but oh well, of course, I get the feeling that was very much just done so that they can find out, so that it can get to a head. It's what it is, you know. Maybe not the best writing the show has had. Oh my god, a slight little bit of criticism. Now, honestly, the show is still great. It's that little thing. It doesn't bother me too much. It's just something I noticed. Now, in this episode, we learn, more about the team. We learn a little bit more about Skeen, his brother, that kind of stuff. I honestly thought pretty much all the backstories were interesting. What I did find extremely funny, though, is Cinta's full name is
Sinterklaas.
According to Skeen. That's how he says it, that's how he pronounces it, which to a Dutch person like me sounds a lot like Sinterklaas.
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 Sinterklaas, which is literally our version of Santa. And I'm honestly not entirely sure if the showmakers intentionally did that to make it sound like our word or not. Otherwise, it's a very funny coincidence, and I can't really not laugh at that point. When I heard that, I'm like, oh my god, you seriously did that? But at the end of the episode, they're at the dam, ready to go for tomorrow, when, of course, the eye is going to take place. But that is for the next episode. We finally do see Luthen for a moment in his shop. He's panicking. He's like, oh, maybe Cassian wasn't the right person. Well, sorry, Luthen, it's too late now. It is going to happen. And, well, of course, I'll get to it when I get to it in the next episode. I cannot wait to review The Eye. It might be my favorite episode of the season, either that or episode 10. But until then, I'm just wondering, what do you think of this episode? I thought, overall, this episode was solid. It just gets you from where we started in the previous episode, and it very much sets up for the next one. It's kind of a quiet before the storm, so it's not the most exciting episode, but I still think it's solid, and it gave us some good character moments. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on episode 5, The Forgets of Andor? Let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel for more Star Wars content like Andor reviews or some game playthroughs. I have plenty of things going on this channel. I also have an announcement pretty soon. Look out for that. It's going to be very interesting. At least I think so. So stay tuned for that. Follow me on social media to follow what I do outside of my channel a little bit more. And of course, until my next video, may the Force be with you.